Welcome back to Pop Goes the Stack, the podcast where shiny tech meets the messy reality of production. This episode is coming to you from the show floor at App World, where the demos are polished, the buzzwords are flowing, and the Wi-Fi is, I guess, doing its best. I'm Joel Moses, stepping out of the co-host chair to run the show today. Lori McVitie couldn't make it to the event, but I'm joined by a guest co-pilot, Oscar Spencer, to help translate conference energy into production-grade reality. Welcome, Oscar.
Oh, it's amazing to be here.
So, we're going to go big right out of the gate. Today, we're talking about an existential crisis, an agent identity crisis. Who am I right this minute? Because identity isn't as static as our models would assume. As agents become more capable and more variable, do we force them into the same fixed credential boxes we use for everything else? Or does identity itself have to evolve to reflect what the agent is doing, what time it's doing it for, what it's acting for, and what context it's operating in? Identity seems to be one of those things that just isn't getting enough attention in the era of AI. Now, to dig into that, we're joined by F5's Chief Product Officer, Kunal Anand, whose time is infinitely precious, to discuss how identity, access, and trust can change when the user and this is software that can shapeshift.
I am always down to talk to Joel Openclaw Moses.
Oh, wow, man. I'm telling you, that's like my
OC.
That's like my pledge name now.
OC, that's
Great. Fantastic. So identity in the era of AI, especially as we move into agentic AI structures, not only are we asking software to do things for us, we're asking it to take initiative on behalf of us, which means in some cases, we're disconnecting the identity being sampled live and embodying something with identity. What are the ramifications of that? What do you think we need to do to constrain, to control identity?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the fundamental issues that we're dealing with today. I never, ever want an agent to say it is me, because you are not me. You're an agent acting on my behalf. And I want that to always be reflected in every single audit log, because eventually, when I go back to see what has gone terribly wrong, who authorized that purchase, me, who ran that script for me. I want to know exactly at what point any agent did this thing for me, because at this point in time, we've got amazing AI tools where I don't necessarily know all the agents that I have working for me, right? And especially with different agents kicking off other agents and things, I really want to be able to have full control over what all of it looks like together. So this is something that we actually need to take very seriously and have finer grain access control on everything if we're going to be going down this route.
Did you ever, for both of you, create a soul.md file? Did you ever do that?
Soul.md,
Yeah.
I've never.
You've never done it?
No.
Do you know what we're talking about?
I don't. Please
Do you
tell
want to do
me.
it?
So I've experimented with this. So in creating some of the things that I needed to do for agentifying some home automation tasks that I was working on, you create a soul.md file, which basically gives it its governing mechanism, its rationale, its reason for being. You give it a purpose.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It's
And
existential stuff.
It is existential. Now, again, the difficulty that I have is that I created that document. I knew that I created that document. Not every person who deploys agentic AI is going to have the ability to do that. Like, I got to define exactly how that agent should process the data that I give it rights on behalf of, but not every agentic system works that way.
Yeah.
And, when you launch an agent, you give it an initial grant, right? You tell it, okay, you're me for all intents and purposes, and here are the classes of the things that you can do. And then you walk away and you become untethered, unattached from the initial grant. And the agent then becomes, for all intents and purposes, you working on behalf of you with your password effectively. And what happens if it goes ARI? What happens if, you need your grant changes? That's another thing. It gets a point in time grant, but what happens if that access right is dropped? That token may still be associated with the old grant, right? So it strikes me that the way we authenticate and the way that we authorize is very much transactional, and it needs to move beyond that. What do you think?
There's a new paradigm that scares me that's on the Discords now, which isn't self-evolving agents, because that was sort of the thing with OpenClaw, right? Which was, how do we create these things, and can these things evolve naturally because they can update its code? And the notion of a soul MD is fascinating. It's somewhat existential, right? Which is, you seed this thing with whatever you want. So the creator of OpenClaw, he was the one who kind of created the soul.md file concept, and I love this idea. You can do all sorts of things with it, and it can evolve. But those like sort of create the governing parameters for your home automation stuff. You should like think about you're the Bob Vila of agents.
I got to tell you, when I first started editing that document, I actually I stepped back for a moment. I thought about the existential ramifications of
Yeah,
it. If you want to describe what your purpose in life is, could you actually rationally write that accurate?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
totally. Well, I'm gonna now share like the thing that scared me when I read on Discord, which was the ability for agents to create other agents, not necessarily evolving itself, but what happens when you create those governing parameters in a soul file or in an agent.md file or whatever it is? What happens when those things can go and create other agents?
Right.
That is the thing that's super fascinating. And then kind of goes back to what Oscar was describing, which is so we know what grants you gave
Mhm.
agent A, but if agent A goes and creates from scratch agents B and C,
Mm-hmm.
what's stopping agent A from granting things to agents B and C?
Absolutely.
And it should likely, and I'm just going to pretend to be quasi-logical here, should likely the grants it gives be a subset
Yeah.
of whatever grants A got. But
Yeah.
theoretically, assuming like that chain of like provenance exists, you could do that. But in this crazy, dynamic, weird, self-updating, do whatever you want YOLO world, I don't know if that's even possible.
But it isn't to say that I don't want this to happen, right? Like, I would love it if agents B and C were just created automatically and just could solve all my problems and do all the things. Just it's a big question of how do we do it safely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the question. And it almost
Cool.
begs the question of can we vibe our soul.mds?
Oh, wow. We're doing this right now. I love it.
Meta.
Yeah.
No, but
Let's go all
seriously,
meta.
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah,
but genuinely, I would love, if I could create a set of guidelines around, hey, this is how I want my agents to act, right? And so when you create a new agent
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
that you're actually giving it those same principles.
So this is definitely an area, though, like I mentioned, transactional in
Yeah.
nature, and not transactional. Unfortunately, occurs at a point in time, and at the point in time, you have a context. As you drift farther away from the transaction, you begin to lose the context.
Totally.
And as you imbue another agent, B or C,
Yeah.
they don't have the same context that the origination had when you first authenticated and authorized it, right? So, you would do this using SAML technologies. You would chain SAML assertions to each
Yeah.
other to coalesce something, or you would use an OAuth token. But those are all, like I said, transactional identities.
Right.
And on behalf of identities,
Yeah.
are an idea that exists and has existed for a long time. It hails back to like Kerberos days.
Oh, jeez.
But
I'm shivering right now.
honestly, there's no standard for transmission of these elements.
That's true.
You can actually ask, for example, an agent to create a secrets file and maintain a secrets file. Now, unless you're very good at it, you can specify what the controls are on the secrets file and maybe what the constraints are in redistributing the secrets file. But these things are going to keep your passwords.
Yeah.
Keep your tokens. And
Totally.
so it seems to me that we haven't adequately tackled this problem.
So I'd agree with that. I think we're still in the exploratory fun phase
Yeah.
of the technology.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are, and I hear you around the security side of it. That stuff definitely keeps me up at night. I
Mhm.
think it keeps all of us up at night. Like, how do you do this safely and securely? There's sort of other meta technical questions here around identity, and if the current tools and technologies that we have today are good enough for it. I don't think so. I think the fluidity of all of the technology, the fact that we're transmitting, and you said this well, like the fact that we would have to basically when A spawns B or C has to sort of create the rules of the road for B and C in text files, and it could pass the original context that it got when it was created. But you're basically relying on text as your transmission vehicle. And at some point, when you get to agents X, Y, and Z, how much of the context window have you chewed up? Because you like literally like
the context game of telephone.
yeah, like you have used all your tokens. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like by the time like you don't have like the context window is completely full because of all the context from like A through U.
Right.
you know,
right.
and you just don't have more space left for doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, right? But we're in the fun phase though,
We
right?
are in the fun
Aren't
phase
you guys
now.
having fun?
I mean,
No,
it
no,
is
no.
fun as
It's
long as
absolutely fun.
as long as everyone is looking at it as fun right now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
the point. That's the point. But I think we have to admit that that's where we are.
Yes.
yeah.
And it's kind of like if you remember the early days of the internet, it was so fun.
Yeah.
The early days of the internet, I would argue, were way more fun than what they are right now.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
although I to draw another caller in, and we're in Las Vegas, so I have to invoke this one.
I
Just
say
north of
fun, and
us.
you say Las Vegas.
Well, yes, of course, but just north of us, we experimented with a production technology that had a very high blast radius before we really understood what good practices and good safeguards were. And as a result, we increased the background radiation for the entire planet. Nuclear testing.
Yeah.
Right. In the early days, we didn't understand what the constraints of the technology were, what the risks of the technology were, but we rushed really hard into experimenting with it openly, publicly, without consideration for what that might cause. And I do think that we are at that stage of this particular technology as well.
But what do
Where
we
we're
do
not-
about it?
Well, first of all, I think it's a good idea to understand the blast radius.
Mm.
We already talked about transitive identity in agents.
Yeah.
Understand that every single time an agent creates another agent, the blast radius increases. It's not just you being able to grant your password, it's your password being able to be granted by two other authorizing parties. So that should give people pause.
Yeah.
This should be a design aspect of the systems that you create.
I guess let me ask you guys this question, which is, so let's be practical for a moment. Let's say that, because I'm just trying to like build a mental model here, and I think the listeners and viewers are probably trying to follow along and parse this thing.
Sure.
Although now they're thinking about fun in the desert, which
Oh,
is
well, you
a
know.
totally different thing.
Sure.
But let's be practical and let's assume that you've got an agent, and you want this agent to be able to read information from a database. Enter your favorite data store or database that has a username and password. I'll ask you the questions, and you tell me how you would solve these things, because I'm just trying to chain that. Okay, so you've got, let's say, the calling program. I'll pick Go for whatever reason. I like it.
Sure.
Why not? So let's say you have an application in Go, and you want to be able to call an agent to go and fetch data from this database. Where do you store the credentials that the agent is going to use to fetch that information? What would you do?
Ooh.
Credentials agent.
Look at you.
No, seriously.
Oh,
No.
I love this. Oh, this is great. Oscar's answer is, I'm going to write an agent that wraps one password.
No, but genuinely, because the thing is like I actually want
I'm projecting and thinking you're a one password kind of person.
I am a one password
family
subscriber.
Oh, geez. I was going to say, like, for OPSEC, let's not.
Yeah, no. No, but I think genuinely though, I think where your credentials are stored, I want there to be one place. I don't want my credentials just to be unfettered throughout many different agents. I want agents to say, hey, I need to talk to this other agent. This is the one that gives me access to things.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
at least lowering that blast radius to this one place, I think is going to be something that helps us curb some of this. Because
think that's a good
otherwise,
idea.
if the credentials are just everywhere, especially if they're plain text, username and password, and at that point it could end up in some training data sets.
He's not wrong. Like, there needs to be a place where purpose, context, and constraints are recorded alongside the credentials. That are
Yes,
held.
I agree with you there. You just did the XKCD thing without realizing it. I'm like, Oscar, how would you like imbue this thing with information to go and get data? And you're like, oh, I'm going to go build a credential agent, which is like, that's rad.
Yeah.
Walk me through how you would construct walk me through, like, what are the primitives of that thing? Like, where would you store that data? Would you literally keep it in a vault, like one password, and, pull it out of there?
Genuinely in a vault, like one password, HashiCorp, like whatever, just go wild, right? And then you give your agent a credential that lets it unlock that vault.
Yeah. Okay, but again, kind of going back to that, so you would still have to give that agent a credential.
Yes. I don't know how we get around
to get the credential.
How do you do that?
Now, to get the credential,
Yes.
I think that the standard transactional natures of asking for a credential, getting a credential, and applying a credential need to be modified so that you create something that has to give you the context under which it's operating too.
I agree with that.
And that agent should look at the context before allowing access to the credential for the other agent.
So to nerd out, SPIFFE and SPIRE.
I like SPIFFE and SPIRE as a carrier for that.
So I was going to go there, which is, do you see an adaptation of SPIFFE and SPIRE in this context for sort of agents to communicate with sub-agents?
Yeah.
Because maybe the Go program, we think of it differently, and maybe it's not an application.
Yeah.
Maybe we think of it as sort of an agent, and then we think about all those other agents like as sub-agents.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a different meta way to think about it. And do you imagine that there's like a new type of protocol that emerges, classic XKCD, like we just need to go and invent a new protocol, and like why not?
I think a new protocol's got to emerge. I think SPIFFE and SPIRE are great at forming interlinks between like API endpoints and API, like host-to-host identity and grants for host-to-host operation. What I'm talking about is something that's even lower than that, where you have a number of different credentials forking off to multiple services, and the services have to communicate under the covers of this.
Yeah.
First, you have to authorize the services to talk to each other, and then underneath that, you have to authorize the purpose for which the transaction is occurring.
Totally.
And I think something's going to emerge there.
Yeah, and what's going to be wild is like when it comes to sending that purpose, if you have a foundational model on the other side, that's like the gatekeeper that's parsing the purpose, and it's like, I reject your claim. I reject your claim, agent.
I reject your reality and substitute my own, as they say on Mythbusters.
No, but this world, it's just so fun right now. It's so fun because we're watching it evolve in real time, and I don't know how we solve these problems. I mean, people talk about service accounts, and service accounts aren't going anywhere. They are what they are.
Yeah.
But like this world of identity and agents is so unique, and there's so many ways to do this. You've now like broken my brain with this idea of a credential agent.
I mean, but it's
not a bad idea.
You need a gatekeeper, right? And the thing is, unfortunately, because this is something, I haven't gone down the OpenClaw rabbit hole yet. I haven't done that yet. And
is there a reason why you haven't?
I'm scared, Kunal.
Hold on. You're not scared to write a credential agent that has access to your one password, but you're scared of like firing up OpenClaw.
Because I want to play around with it, but I think OpenClaw is just too much access to my things.
You got to give it a soul.
That's right.
I'll give it a soul, but
imbue it with a purpose.
Yeah, is that enough?
Dark purpose.
You got to give it a soul.
Is that enough?
Is it ever enough?
No.
It's never, ever enough.
I don't think it's ever enough. But I think genuinely having some type of gatekeeper, because the thing is, I've been looking at like Claude Cowork is like something that I want to try out.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And again, access to all my things, which is like kind of scary. And so I know that one of the things Cowork does whenever it needs to do something, it'll pop up and say, hey, can I have permission to like run this thing or do this or whatnot? And that sounds great. But we realize as that's happening thousands of times, that's not sustainable, right?
It's not scalable either.
I actually do want something like an AI that can help me.
It's not sustainable, not scalable, also not reliable. Let me give you a real war story, real fast on Claude Cowork. So I use a Mac, and I'm a crazy note taker. I have notes that go back 25 years, right? And paper notes, whatever, Evernote, all these things I've had over the years. I've coalesced all that stuff. Yes, I was Obsidian pilled for a little bit too.
All right.
But like I got all that stuff out of there. I finally got into Apple Notes. Life is good. But I used Claude Cowork recently to like parse through some notes, and it ended up wrecking my notes database that powers Apple Notes. It wrecked it as it was modifying it, and it corrupted all of my notes. I am so lucky. For 25 years, I'm so lucky that I had a backup database of the notes that I could effectively go in and like rebuild the database from, but it wrecked it, like fully corrupted the database. And like, it's insane. So just be really, really careful from a reliability perspective. Like, as you're talking about scalability and you're talking about stability and all those things, I'm talking about reliability. Like this thing fundamentally broke 25 years of notes. I think it's like 6,000 plus notes in this app.
And do you see why I'm terrified to try some of these things?
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
All right.
And have backups. Hold on. I just heard
have backups.
Really,
don't do it in a production environment.
And it's for the lulz.
Do it
for the lulz.
It's for the lulz.
Do it for the lulz.
All right.
All about the lulz.
Well, with that, that's all the time we have for today. Now, I want everybody to remember autonomous AI agents sound great until you realize they're basically microservices with their own special initiative, which means identity and access control matters a lot more than it used to. Every AI agent eventually becomes a service account. If you don't think about that, and if history is to be our guide, every service account eventually becomes an incident report. And that is a wrap for Pop Goes the Stack. If you're still thinking, who am I right now? Then you should subscribe. We keep tracing the edge where agents meet access and reality. Take care.